Hi, good morning. Let's start this CyberArk training demo sessions. Some points about myself. I am working in IT industry since last 4 years as a CyberArk SME. I have worked with more than 10 clients in these 4 years, implementing a lot of their fresh PAM implementation projects. I haven't only worked on CyberArk PAM, but I've also worked on Thycotic PAM and Beyond Trust PAM. I'm familiar with Active Directory and SailPoint Identity IQ. But for all these years, my major area of work was CyberArk Core Pass. I'm also familiar with CyberArk AIM solutions, but that is not what we are going to do. We are going to focus on these cores. Moving ahead, today's agenda would be privileged identity management introduction. This is not the time that we are going to explain every bits and pieces of CyberArk. We will go in more details, but today, as a first session, I would like you to introduce the privileged identity management area as a section of identity and access management domain. Right? Why do we need privileged identity management? Why do we spend so much money to secure our privileged accounts inside our organization? The first point that comes to our mind when we talk about privileged identity management is enterprise pain areas. What compels us to enable our PAM solution in organization? What exactly is our problem, and why do we want to focus more on this privileged accounts that we have? Second point is, what are the risks associated with this? Let's say if we don't secure our privilege accounts, what could happen? What could be the worst scenario, right? And the third point will be, what would be the expected solution if we implement a PAM solution in our organization? If we want to mitigate a risk, what do we want from a PAM solution? What are our requirements from a PAM solution? If we are investing so much money, what we are getting in return? So these are the 3 points that I would like to discuss today in brief. Let's just start with the first one. So the 3 points that I just talked about, we are going to learn more about it. I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail. What is privileged access? Why do we need privileged access? Privileged accounts are just not limited to business users. What is privileged access? Any accounts that has more access than a standard normal user. For example, if you have accounts that is allowing you to log into your system, but you are only logging into your system, you are not able to change anything, edit anything. You're just logging into your system, and you can see the details in the system, see the data in the system, but you're not allowed to change data or add anyone or remove anyone. That is your normal standard user access. But that is not a privileged access. What is privileged access? If you have anywhere even slightly higher privilege, higher amount of access than a normal standard user, you are a privileged user, and your account is called privileged accounts, right? And that is the accounts that we want to focus when we try to implement a PAM solution, right? Now, the privileged accounts can be of multiple types. You can be a system administrator that grants you the entire administrative privilege inside your system. You can add anyone, you can delete anyone, you can create an account, remove an account. All that privilege you have. But let's say if that accounts get compromised. If that accounts get compromised, your entire system gets compromised, right? That's where PAM solution comes in. That's where CyberArk comes in and helps you manage these kinds of credential. The administrator credential is not only limited to your systems. It can be inside your application. It can be your database. It can be your third-party service provider like routers and hubs and switches. Any device or any system, even your smartphones have a root accounts, right? You have privileged accounts everywhere. If you have a device, it contains a privileged accounts, and to secure that privileged accounts, If that account get compromised, if that account gets in the wrong hand, your entire system gets compromised, right? And that is why we uh, that these privileged accounts are at the highest risk, right? Talking about these privileged accounts or users, there are two type of privileged accounts. One is interactive accounts, human accounts. Human accounts, when I say human accounts, I mean accounts where you as a human or as a individual are entering username or password to get inside a system. You are managing these credential, you are entering the username and password to get inside any system and perform your daily work or whatever the work that you have been assigned with. These human accounts can be of different types, can be of different privilege. Like you have super user privilege for Unix system, you have root. For Windows system, you have local admins, or for database, you have sysadmins. All these accounts contain the highest privilege that you can grant inside a system, right? If you know Active Directory, you can create a domain admin accounts that grants you access to the entire infrastructure inside your Active Directory. All those servers that are inside your Active Directory, you will have access to those servers if you have domain accounts. If you have a local admin accounts, you have the entire privilege inside that local server. You can do anything that you want, and no one is going to monitor you, and no one is going to stop you from doing what you want. You have a sysadmin account in database, you have everything. You can remove any database without asking anyone, without anyone's permission. You can add someone, you can give access to someone that are not authorized. Nobody is going to stop you, right? And these are the credentials that are at the highest risk. These are the credentials that are at the highest risk. Let's say if any one of these credentials, let's say if your Active Directory domain account gets compromised, gets in the wrong hands, the person that is not authorized will be able to log into each of your server and do whatever they want. They can take your data for ransom, they can delete your data, and they can ask you for money. You have to, there is no other way to get your data back once they have it. So the privilege access management is a preventive measure that we keep in place to protect our most privileged assets, that are our privileged accounts, right? These were the interactive accounts. The second one we have is called non-human accounts. Let's say you have a script, a PowerShell scripts that you are using to change multiple things inside multiple servers that you have inside your organization. Now these scripts needs to log in order to get inside a server, right? They need a credential, they need a username or password to log into your systems. And these scripts are log into your system a thousand times in a minute. You are not going to enter your credential, username, and password inside thousands of your system in a minute, right? You would need a machine to do it on your behalf. That's where service account comes in. You create a username and password, you create an account, and you hard code these credentials inside your script, or you implement a name solution. That's something we can talk later on in this course. But that's how the machine credential or service accounts works, right? And now this service accounts have the same privilege. If they want to change anything inside your service, they need to have administrative rights, or they need to have uh, read and write privileges, right? And these accounts are as much important as your super user accounts, right? Because these are hard coded credentials, not secure, and contains more privilege than a normal standard user. The same thing will happen if these accounts get compromised. Your data can be held for ransom. That is not something that you want, because you will be see, there are multiple consequences when your data gets compromised. First, your company's reputation gets damaged. Second, your client's trust gets damaged. Third, you get a compliance failure from regulatory bodies. For health compliance, it's HIPAA. For insurance, it's SOX, and they charge a hefty fine for you, right? Once your data gets compromised, and that is not the situation that you want to be in. That's why the PAM technology is one of the major growing industries in identity and access management domain. That's why people are focusing more on security these days. Uh, let's talk about risk associated with privilege accounts, or what are the customer challenges. Like I told you, the privilege identity or privilege accounts are keys to the kingdom. If these accounts or these identities gets compromised, your entire system gets compromised. Nobody knows who is logging into your system, what they are changing. You have no way to know what has been changed in your system, and what has been deleted, and if you are getting your data back anytime or not. Right? To prevent this, you need PAM. Second one, your accounts needs to be centralized somewhere. For example, if your server team builds a server, they build they usually build an administrator account to administrate the server. But on the same server, if you have an application running, some accounts will be created for that application. That application account will, will have the application team will have access to that application account, and server team will have access to the server administrator account. Now, these accounts are not centralized. These accounts are monitored by two different teams and not in synchronization. This is a challenge that most of the clients wants to focus on. Right, the accounts needs to be centralized, and all these accounts, if you keep implement a PAM solution, all these accounts will be at one place. All those access will be limited, and all these accounts activity will be monitored in a PAM solution. Right. Third point is access control and accountability. By accountability, I mean whenever account gets used, whenever accounts is a person or an individual is logging into a server with a shared account or a highest privilege accounts, the activities needs to be monitored. There should be an audit log or an audit trail that says that this person has logged into the system at certain point of time. What are the activities that they have performed? Right, all these things needs to be at one place so that these activities can be audited properly, so that you maintain compliance standard with SOX or all the regulatory bodies, and you do not get into all trouble of compliance failure. These were the risks that needs to be mitigated, and these are the challenges that needs to be focused on when we implement a PAM solution. Now let's talk about what are the requirements from a PAM solution. What are your expectation from a PAM solution? PAM solution is not it's very expensive, and if you are spending so much money, there should be something that you get in return. There should be some return on your investment. Your expectation should be fulfilled, right? So a few of the major expectation from a PAM solution are these ones. First one is managing the PAM accounts. For example, uh, what do you uh, how do you secure your privilege accounts? You have a username or password. You cannot change your username every time, right? You will create a username that will be static for a long time. Unless your ID gets changed or your identity gets changed, username will be static. But the password needs to be very delicate, needs to be very secured and complex, right? And that's where PAM helps you. Let's say you have thousands of administrator accounts, right? And you want these passwords to be changed every 7 days. You see these accounts as very high privilege and very high. You want to secure these accounts, and you want the passwords to be changed uh, frequently. Let's say 7 days. But how do you change passwords of thousands of accounts every 7 days? That will be a major burden on your support team, right, and on your help desk. So that's where a PAM tool comes in and says that, okay, we will be able to rotate these passwords automatically, but you'll have to define some standard for your password, password complexity, password characters. All these things you can configure in a PAM solution. You can configure the details, the password rotation interval, everything that you need is configurable here, right? And thousands of accounts can be managed automatically within the interval period that is identified by your security team. Second one is you want to limit the access to any PAM accounts or any privileged accounts that you want to secure. For example, you have an administrator account and you have a developer. You do not want to give developer the administrator accounts access, right? He does not, because he does not need it. He just needs to log into your system and does his code changes and just logs out. He does not need to monitor your accounts or do any administrative changes, right? For that, you create a new account and you onboard that account to PAM, and PAM will take care of the least privilege method, and it will create a role-based access model for you and enable the least privilege access method. Audit trails. This one we had already talked about. A PAM solution enables you to keep the audit logs in one place so that your audits can be monitored, so that your logs can be monitored. It helps you record sessions. For example, if you log into your server using a high privileged accounts, your sessions will be monitored. It will be recorded, saved in a video format, and so that auditors or maybe your supervisors can uh, will be able to see it and determine whether these activities were necessary or not. All the keystroke logins, all the commands that you performed during your active sessions will be recorded in a text format for each account. So all these audit logs will be there. Uh, that makes monitoring uh, or auditing your accounts activity a whole lot easier, right? The fourth one, uh, this one is a major uh, requirement: multi-factor authentication. For example, you are using your username and password to get inside a PAM solution, and then from there onwards, you're accessing your accounts and logging into your systems. That is one way to do it, but to make it more secure, a PAM solution helps you to implement multi-layer of authentication. If you know what an authentication is, you use your username and password to get inside a system. But before you use your username and password and logs into your systems, logs in to see your accounts in a PAM solution, there is another layer of security. It might be an Okta solution, it might be a Google Authenticator, it might be an OTP. Uh, the PAM solution allows you to integrate multi-factor authentication application with the your enterprise PAM solution. CyberArk as a PAM solution does not have its own multi-factor authentication solution, but many of the PAM solutions like Beyond Trust and ThaiCartic do have their own solutions. But CyberArk gives you a feature to integrate your PWA or your web UI or the entire CyberArk solution to multi-factor authentications like Radius and Google Authenticator and all those stuffs, right? Next one is session management. When I say session management, I mean when you initiate a session, let's say if you are doing a normal RDP session using your administrator credential and entering into your system, nobody knows your identity. You used administrator account to log into your server, you performed some task, there is no audit trails, nobody knows when you logged in, what are the tasks that you performed, right? But when you implement a PAM solution, when you do session management through a PAM solution, everything that you do inside the server gets recorded. Every keystroke logins, every commands you perform, it gets recorded in a text format, right? This also gives you a session isolation. For example, if you are logging in with your administrative credential and another person logging with the same credential to the same server, these two sessions will not be the same. These two sessions will be completely separate and isolated. And this is a feature that CyberArk gives you, right? Uh, Last one, uh, This is the feature that not all of the PAM solution that provides. CyberArk provides it. This is called just-in-time temporary access. So let's say if a developer or if anyone wants access to a particular server for a certain amount of time, for let's say 1 hour, so that he could perform a task and gets and logs out of the server, and he does not need to log in to the server anytime, anywhere. And in CyberArk, there is a feature that he can go ahead and request access for a certain period of time for that particular server, and that access will go for approval to his immediate manager or supervisor or server owner. And then after the access is approved, this access will automatically gets configured or provisioned for that particular amount of time that the access is requested for. Once that time gets over, the access will be expired automatically and the sessions will be disconnected, right? This is completely customizable. Everything that needs to go there, from approver name or from the server name, everything can be configured, that we will look at on the later part of this course. But this is for just a brief idea on what the CyberArk as a PAM solution allows you, what CyberArk as a PAM solution features. Course curriculum, this is CyberArk content. Not going to lie, it's going to be a long road ahead. We have a lot of things to cover. Let's give you a quick overview of what we are going to do in this course. So I'll be explaining more about these 3 points, a few more details that you need to know in the first class. The second class would be CyberArk overview and CyberArk solution components. So you must have seen inside your industry, if you have previously worked in industry, many of the application contains one web UI and one database server, and that's it. But CyberArk is completely different. It has major, big architecture, and it has a database of its own called CyberArk Vault. It's one of the major component of CyberArk. Everything that happens anywhere in all these components get stored in the vault. And you will have a web UI called Password Vault, Web Access Manager. And you will have another component, another server for managing your sessions, managing your server accesses called Privileged Session Manager. You will have another component called CyberArk Password Central Password Manager for managing your passwords, for managing your accounts, for discovering or scanning your accounts inside your organization, then onboarding it automatically. Right? You'll have another client, Windows application to access your Vaults UI. Right? We'll be getting to know more about these components. Uh, I'll try to cover in detail, maybe spending an hour or two for each component so that I can give you a detailed idea about all these components. Once we are done with that, we will be going over about the lab. We'll be doing manual installation with prerequisites and performing post installation steps, so that you get a proper hands-on and you get to know what needs to be done in order to completely set up your CyberArk architecture, or a PAM architecture. Once we are done with that, we'll create policies. Policies, as in, once you have completed your infrastructure, it will be a completely blank. No policies will be created. No platforms or no passwords or accounts will be there. We will be creating master policies, as in what will be our password change interval period, what will be our password complexity, how are we going to monitor sessions, if we are even going to monitor it, where would the logs be stored, right? What are the accesses that needs to be configured? What are the safe level architecture that we want to build? Right, all those things that we will cover in this policy creation part after the installation is done. All these things we will cover theoretically, as well as we will be doing it inside our own labs. Everyone will get a hands-on. Everyone will create their own policies and learn accordingly. Right. Once those are done, we will looking at the safe management, why safe is needed, why object level access is needed, uh, why we will be integrating our Active Directory with our CyberArk UI, right? So that we can even see our LDAP integration as our LDAP users we can we enable our LDAP users to authenticate to CyberArk Web UI and uh, get them logged in inside CyberArk Vault. We'll see all those features like dual control, all those approval method, or all those access workflow. Once we are done with that, we will integrate CyberArk accounts with Windows systems. We will be onboarding Windows accounts and then Linux accounts, security devices like routers and switches, network devices, all those kinds of account we will bring into CyberArk. We'll onboard them into CyberArk and see the capability of CyberArk to manage those passwords and see the capability of CyberArk to initiate a session and manage those sessions from different kinds of devices, different kinds of operating systems. Certification is one of the major things that we are going to help you with. You will need a CyberArk customer account or a partner account or a community account to go ahead with these certifications. CyberArk Trustee is something that you need you can complete even now onwards if you have basic knowledge of security or identity and access management as a whole area. If not, don't worry, we'll cover that as well. This certification is completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. You just need to have a customer account, a community account. Uh, we'll help you with that. CyberArk Defender uh, is a mid-level certification. You will need to have CyberArk administration knowledge in order to complete the certification. Uh, Cost you $200. You'll have to have a community account. You'll have to have good knowledge of CyberArk in order to complete CyberArk Defender. Hopefully, we should be able to complete this certification if we do all the hands-on ourselves and do a more research and be more careful when we learn this course. Same is the thing with Sentry. If you have done installation of all the components, if you have done integration like Active Directory integration and Radius integration and PKI integration, and you are aware of all the configuration file and saves, the default saves that gets generated while installing the CyberArk components, you should be able to clear Sentry certification. My expectation is that if you complete this course, you should not need anything else. You should not need any extra terms or any extra materials to complete these kind of certification. You should be able to do it, but we will help you with it. This is not the time that we discuss about this. Once we complete the course, we will talk about this. This is a sample certification that you get once you complete the certificate, once you complete this course, as well as you get a technician certificate from CyberArk vendor if you complete Trustee or any kind of certification projects that we are going to demonstrate. Installation of CyberArk component is the first one. Once we complete all the theoretical knowledge, all the components, all the basic ideas about the components and all those theories, we will be installing each component. We'll be integrating Active Directory. We'll be setting up email notification engine so that you get to know that how does alerts work in CyberArk. When does alerts get triggered if your accounts get failed, if you are getting an illegal access or uh, anything of that sort that is not normal, you get an alert, and that's what CyberArk email notification engine is for. We'll be configuring this engine and we'll be setting up all these notifications. We'll be installing each component: CPM, PBWA, PSN, and private arc client. All these things will be included in your project one. I think once you complete project one, you should be eligible for completing CyberArk Sentry certification. Project two is administration, all those safe creation and user access and all access workflow. All those things we will look at inside project two. Troubleshooting is another part. If something goes wrong inside CyberArk, something is not working, your safe is not working properly, your access is not working properly, how do you go about it? How do you troubleshoot? How do you know that what should be your approach in order to fix it? Right? That's it will be a long part. We'll have to see multiple aspects of it. There are some internal users like PWA app users and gateway users. There are some internal users for each component. We'll have to look at them separately. These are the projects that we are going to perform. Lab setup, we will help you with that. No issues. We will give you a demo license. We'll help you setting up virtual machines in your personal local machines, local laptops. Uh, there are some system requirements. You'll have to have a Windows operating system. Minimum of 8 GB is required to set up your virtual labs. If you do not have 8 GB, the process will be a little slow for you. I won't say it won't be possible, the process, but it would be a little slow for you. You'll have to free up some disk space because CyberArk components takes a lot of space, and also your VMs will be containing a lot of space. So 200 GB should be enough. Internet connection should be enough in order for your CyberArk companies to communicate with your web UI or PWA. Also, for the sessions, internet connections, a good internet connection is always required. So I would advise you to make sure of it. These are some community portals, some documents that supports additional knowledge materials for you. These are some training mock interview questions. I would advise you to go through it. I am not sure if this would be the right time because you would only look at it as a questions perspective. I'm sure that these questions are not answerable for you right now, but we will help you with once you complete the course. I am 100% sure that you will be able to answer each one of these. That's it. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, just you can mail at this mail ID, or I will also provide you my mail ID as well. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.